Hey there! Today we're going to talk about this pen, the Camlin No. 4. It was sent to me by someone in India, and today we'll talk about it. So, let's start with the parts of the pen. The cap, the barrel, they're plastic, but they're of a type of textured plastic, which is pretty nice to the touch. It's not smooth. I know that my camera won't really focus up close, but maybe this will give you a bit of an idea of the texture. It's kind of nice. The cap is a screw-on, screw-off cap. It has a clip. The clip, it says Camlin. The clip is fairly springy, but it can also be bent. So when you use it, I just bent it back. Be a little careful. It has a little dome thing on top, which is a fairly shiny plastic. And now you have this textured plastic, a little metal center band. You see some issues with the way it was finished there. It's a little rough around the edge. And a pen this price, I guess that's to be expected. You have the barrel, Camlin 4, it says there, and then registered, same textured plastic, little metal ring at the end, and then a little shiny dome again. I can take that off, which is a little scary, because this is an eyedropper pen, but even when you take it off, apparently you don't actually open up the ink reservoir, so that's a good thing. Screw off cap. Now we have the nib. Nothing too fancy. I've seen these nibs before. The shape quite angular. Not sure how well you can see that, but it's not a very round nib. It's got these sides that actually go down fairly like a roof or something. I've used the nib. It was a little scratchy and it was a little dry, but I fixed that. I'll show you that in the writing sample how it writes now. It says Camlin on the nib. Because of the angular shape, I think that's a little odd. The word Camlin isn't on the nib completely. It's sort of a C, and then you move around and you get Emle, and then an N on the other the part that's bent. Is that a big issue? Well, no, not really. I don't really care much. It's just that it's somewhat odd from an aesthetic perspective. This is just nitpicking. And then we have the section, which is again that textured plastic. Now we have the threads for the barrel, actually for the cap, I should say. Those threads are fairly sharp, but the section is definitely big enough to hold it in such a way that you don't actually feel the thread, so that's a good thing. Now I'm going to be very careful, because this is an eyedropper and it is full of ink. To my surprise, there was a breather tube in place. I don't think I've ever seen that in an eyedropper. I'm not absolutely sure whether it makes sense. It makes sense in an aromatic converter where you squeeze it and then you can draw up extra air so that it doesn't create a vacuum, but in an eyedropper I'm not sure. In any case, this is full of ink, so it's a very simple concept. You just take an eyedropper, you just drip ink in all the way up to about that point. You screw this back in place, you tap it a few times on paper, nib end first, very gently, and that should get some ink flowing, and then you have a lot of ink to write with. The feed, nothing spectacular. That may well be ebonite, I'm not absolutely sure. And there you have it. So this is the Camlin No. 4. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. By the way, the cap has a little hole in there, so it can actually draw vacuum, which is a good thing, I suppose. And I suppose I could put the clip. No, I cannot put the clip over the hole. That's too bad. You cannot rotate the clip. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? Well, it's a decent pen. These Camlin pens, I have one or two by the same brand, and just have a sip of tea. They're decent pens. They're workhorse pens, knockabout pens. You take them with you, you throw them on the floor, they will survive. As to the writing performance, it's decent, and that's all there is to it. So as I said, this nib was fairly scratchy, it was fairly dry, but with a little bit of work, you know, and make it a bit wetter, make it a bit smoother, and then actually I think it's a pretty nice pen. It's pretty decent. It writes well now, the way I like it. It's light, it's something you can easily take with you, and if you lose it, usually these pens are not very expensive, so you don't lose a $500 pen. So if that is what you're looking for, then you may consider this. If you're going for extremely good looks, if you want a really flashy pen, then this is not your pen. And that's fine. I mean, all these pens have a specific purpose. These are very cheap. These are meant to, write with, and that's all there's to it. They're not designed for the good looks, I'm sure. So that's all there's to it. I think the best thing I can do is show you a writing sample, so that's what I'll do next. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Alright, here we go with the Camlin No. 4. The nib is fine, or it used to be fine. I guess it's closer to medium now. The ink is Noodler's Dragon's Napalm. I think it's beautiful orange, very bright, but not so bright that it actually hurts your eyes. I think it's a great ink. Writing. The reason I said it's medium now is that I smoothed it out a bit. There's not a whole lot of tipping material, so it got a little broader, but I like it that way, and also made it a bit wetter, which also makes it a little broader, I think. Dragon. Snapalm. Anyway, writing, well, I smoothed it out a bit. Before that it was quite scratchy, but more than that it was dry. The nib was very dry. When I capped it and I didn't use it for a while, it wouldn't write. It would have serious startup issues. And now it just writes when I uncap it, so that's a good thing. I had a bit of quick writing. I think that's pretty good. There was a bit of a skip here, but I think I just misaligned the nib in doing this as fast as I could. So that's a good thing. I think it's very decent. The feed keeps up well with the ink flow. Some of these Indian pens, I found that they run a little dry, and then the feed doesn't really keep up with the pen. But here, it's not really an issue. And as I said, I made it a bit wetter, which worked well, I think. I wouldn't exactly call this particularly dry. So that's a good thing. What about flexibility? Well, I can squeeze out some. There's line variation, but it's not very easy. And when I do this, the nib gives a lot of feedback. It doesn't really like that. So, it's not a flex pen. It wasn't advertised as such, so I guess it's not really an issue. So with a little bit of work, I made this nice and wet and as smooth as I would like it to be. So that's a good thing. You may have to work a little bit on the nib. It's easy. You can remove the nib and the feed from the pen. The nib doesn't have a breather hole, not that that really matters in this way, but you can take out the nib and the feed. Just take a brush shim, put it between the nib tines. They will open up a bit. They'll get a little wetter, and well, that's all that's to it. It's very simple to do. Smoothing, just take a bit of micro mesh, very fine grit, maybe 12,000 or something like that, and you just draw figures 8 a few times and a few infinity signs, and you do a final go, something like that on the mesh. And usually that's enough, so it should be a very simple operation. And that's all there's to it. So I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.